Hello guys, welcome back to me reviews for another video. And today we're talking about Massacre at Central High from 1976. This is basically like a teen exploitation film at the time, really, when everything was so booming at the time, involving high school teenagers, and a bit like sex comedies, really, in a way. But this is more of this is a thriller, really, like not a slasher film, because there's no slasher elements in it, really. It's basically just to do with well, the story goes with this one is that this new guy called David has arrived at this new school, of course, and obviously interferes with some bullies, of course. Basically tries to stand himself and try and defend some people. Actually, I think he catches some of the boys trying to attack two girls in a classroom, actually, and intervenes and helps them. But the bullies sort of target, make up a target, really, in a way, because he was interfering with their business, really, as they do, and he, in a way, sets out to get the bullies. He does, in different ways than one. One involves one of the bullies has a van and ends up careening down the road while he's still inside the back. Really, I think he was knocked out or something like that. And obviously gets killed in that one. Let me think what the other one is. Well, one of them sort of dies in an explosion, really. Actually, there's two explosions, actually, in this film, involving dynamite. Someone involved, someone involved in a locker exploding, and one involves, someone called Spoonie, and two women in a threesome in a camping tent, really, in a quarry somewhere, somewhere, and they get crushed by bolts by dynamite. And it's just one of those films. It's again cheaply done. It was done cheap. It was like a cheap boot. It's cheap boo movie. This is, but it has an interesting cast. You've got Robert Carradine in this film, who later went on to do the Revenge of the Nerds films, and actually also starred two John Carpenter films, Escape from LA and Ghosts of Mars. You got Cheryl Rainbow Smith in this as well. He's a bit of like a forgotten B movie starlet who starred in stuff like, again, another film which Robert Carradine was in called Pom Pom Girls, which actually featured an early performance of David Hasselhoff in that film, strangely. And also did some other stuff as well. She was did some bit of music as well involved with Joan Jett at the time. Actually did a song which was included on the Cruising soundtrack with Al Pacino in 1980, and it was one of those films she's one of those people who actually was sort of in the B movies. Laser Blast there's another one actually, which Mystery Science Theater 3000 that she did at the time, which is one of the worst movies ever, really, in some regard, in terms of special effects and just craziness, really. There we go. And maybe some other stuff I'm trying to think of the top of my head. And there's that, and some adult X-rated stuff as well involved. Maybe about two, I would say, she was involved in. And obviously doing that run, especially in the 70s, she was quite, let's say, underground cultish fame, really, in that sort of regards. Indeed, quite interesting, really. And obviously, it's directed by a Dutch director called René Daalder. René Daalder, of course, who later on, or actually worked with Jan de Bont. Jan de Bont, who famous cinematographer, retired cinematographer. In the 90s, he directed Speed and Twister. Really, I think Speed. Did he direct Speed, Cruise Control as well? I think he might have done, actually. Maybe. Or if I'm mixing it up, I don't know. But it's one of those films, really. It's obviously, it's going down this rabbit hole looking at schlocky, exploitation films from the 70s among teenagers at the time. This is, again, so a bit modern, really. Some of the films take place in the 50s and 60s, really, in some regards, like American Graffiti. And, it's capitalised on that, but also make it a bit raunchy as well, a bit of nudity, a bit of violence in it, but it's all right, it is. It only runs for about 86, 87 minutes, really. So it's a bit of a short film, really. It's barely 90 minutes. There was a version that came out in Italy, I think, under the name S16, but they actually added some X-ray material included, really. I'm not too sure with that one, really. Unless they just superimpose some films from another film, really, also an Italian film, and just plonk it in there, really, just to give it a bit more of a you know, sort of X-rating sort of credibility, really, probably. Indeed. But it's all right, really. It's been reviewed a few times by a few cultists and people who review cult movies being movies, really. So there we go. I just found about it. Thought, maybe I might give it a watch. Obviously, it's some interesting parts to it, so it's might be pretty interesting to review. Plus, need to fill out the season, this series, really. So there we go. So, Massacre at Central High from 1976. And next up we got is Gas Pump Girls from 1979. So this is it's another one of those teen comedy movies, really. I mean, I've done a few before, so you know, Van Nuys Boulevard is so one, really. Lunchwagon's another one, I would say. What else? Ooh. Probably a few others I forgot, really. That I've you know, probably in the show, really, that I've done before, but forgot about, really. I don't know. So this involves a group of girls who basically take over, well, sort of temporarily take over this gas station inherited by one of the girls' uncles, played by Kirsten Baker, who had appeared in a few films, mainly in Friday the 13th Part 2. She was in that one. She was also in Police School Academy, or Teen Lust, it's known as, same year this came out, actually. And there's another film she was in called, was it Don't Eat the Babies, from 1983, which got released, well, an unfinished film that got released, and that finally got finished in the late 80s, really. So it was apparently filmed, but they had some new stuff in because it was left unfinished, really. What else she was in? I'm trying to think of, well, some of those films there, really. She's only just a number of films, really, at that time. So I think this is one of her other ones. She's in a lead role in this one. You've got Dennis Bowen in this film, who around the same time was starring in Van Nuys Boulevard, which I reviewed in the last series, really. So yeah, pretty interesting one, really. Interesting cast member, of course, Kirsten Baker. Sandy Johnson's in this as well, who year before was in John Carpenter's Halloween. So that's another interesting one, and I think she plays April, who's a bit more ditzy, really. It's quite funny, actually, because you get some high school stuff, the high school students, really, from the opening of the scene, of course, when they're graduating, and obviously these teenagers, biker teenagers, tie their, what do you call it, graduation gowns to the chairs, really, and once they walk, they sort of just get ripped off, exposing themselves on the table. And actually, Sandy Johnson's character says that, well, I find it quite enjoyable. I didn't mind it, really, you know, unlike some of the others, really. And you sort of get that, really, for her being a bit naive and a bit more loose and ditzy, really. Interestingly, I think it's like, you know, it's more of her character, really. She only appears, well, like in Halloween, there's not much, really. She only briefly appears in the beginning and gets killed, whereas here she's more fleshed out in a way. I don't think she's done any more acting, more acting. She might have done, actually, but maybe, I don't know. So yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things. Also, it's interesting to see Kirsten Baker sing, which has a musical number for some strange reason, interestingly, and it's one of those films. Okay, that's interesting. And she's decent, you know. I don't know if it's actually her actual voice or is it dubbed over. I'm not too sure she's mimed to it. I don't know. She might have been singing, maybe. But it's nice. It's a funny run around. I think towards the end they try and pretend they're from Arabia or something, dress up in like Arabic clothes and say, you know, we demand gasoline, we demand oil, that type of thing. Go to the actual big company. Also, they never succeed. You also got the rivalries between another one, actually, like another gas station seeking business, you know, and everything else. It's just one of those things, really. It's just like, you know, that's it. You know, they're helping improve this gas station, earn a bit, you know, obviously, and rival against different companies. That's fine in a way. You know, you have stuff like that, really. But it's a decent time it is, you know, and that's it I can say about Gas Pump Girls, interestingly, from 1979. There we go. It's also directed by a guy called Joe Bender. There we go. So that's my little take on Gas Pump Girls from 1979, but also Massacre at Central High from 1976 as well. Thank you, guys. See you for the next video.